What's going on, guys, and welcome to another Doctor Who review. Today we are reviewing the third and final of the 60th anniversary specials, The Giggle. So it's the final one. First two I've been pretty impressed with. There have been things here and there that I haven't been the biggest fan of, but on the most part I've enjoyed them. We're getting to the third one, and well, I guess here today I'm gonna talk to you guys about what I thought of this episode. Now, I have actually watched this episode and actually all three now two times. So when I did my reviews for the other two, I pretty much did them straight after watching them one time, whereas now I have watched all three episodes two times. So just wanted to kind of get a better idea of what was going on and how I thought about them. So maybe I'll have slightly different views on this because I've watched it twice, but I don't think a whole lot changed for me between each viewing. So anyway, let's get started with this one, as we always do with the cast. Of course, we start as usual with David Tennant as the Doctor, who did an amazing job. What else do I have to say? I really don't have to say it, I don't think. He was so good, and yeah, there's not really, can I ever say anything bad about him? Of course, his final his final appearance for this point in time as the Doctor, at least as his 14th Doctor, but as we'll talk later on, this is, you know, there are spoilers in this review, by the way. As we'll talk later on, there is definitely the possibility of him coming back once again, even as this same Doctor. So yeah, all in all, I've loved David Tennant throughout these specials. He honestly doesn't seem really any different to how he was way back, you know, when he was the 10th Doctor. So I think that's a good thing, because the 10th Doctor is my favourite Doctor. So yeah, just beautiful acting by David Tennant as usual. Same goes for Catherine Tate as Donna Noble. Once again, I think it's been so nice having her back again. My favourite companion, of course, as well. So yeah, really liked her. She's just gone back into the role really easily. Then, of course, we have Neil Patrick Harris as the toy maker in this episode. I thought he was amazing. I was very excited. I mean, I've never really watched How I Met Your Mother, or anything else with him in it, but I know of the actor. I have seen the odd bit of How I Met Your Mother in that, just on TV while flicking through, and I know he's a big name actor, and he did a very good job in this. You know, from all the accents, the German, then slightly French accent at times, then of course the British accent. He did a bit of an American thing, you know, with that whole, well, that's all right then bit, that was very American. So I really liked his acting. It worked perfectly for the part. I haven't seen or heard, I guess, the original story, but the Celestial Toymaker, but that is coming out on animation actually soon, so I'm very excited for that. It's one that I'll definitely be picking up. I mean, I'll be picking them all up when they're eventually out, but yeah, so Neil Patrick Harris did a great job. It was nice to see Gemma Redgrave back as Kate Lethbridge-Stewart. She actually had something to do in this episode. You know, a lot of her previous, or to be honest, almost all of her appearances, she's not really had a whole lot to do, so she actually she had something to do here. She felt needed, and you know, I liked that. Of course, Bonnie Langford as Melanie Bush back again, very different to how we saw her, you know, in the 7th Doctor's era and 6th Doctor, I guess, as well. Not that screamy, you know, woman that we all, let's be honest, did not like back then. But yeah, I thought for the little bit she had, it was very good. Was she really needed in this story? I wouldn't say so, but I'm pretty sure she's coming back for like series 14, or I think they're calling it season 1 or series 1 or something. She's coming back for Ncuti Gatwa's series, so I guess it's a nice little introduction to her back into the show. And I guess the other person I do want to mention is, of course, Ncuti Gatwa. He started his role as the Doctor in this episode, and yeah, really liked him. Really thought that he fit into the role very well. I don't know how I feel about having him with, you know, with David on his first appearance there, with how all that worked out. But all in all, you know, I'm happy with Ncuti. I'm very excited for his era to begin. Alright, so let's get on to some points here, starting off with Mel returns. Not really much else to say here, but it was just the first thing I noted down. Yep, Mel is back. I really like having her back. Like I said, I don't feel like she was really needed in this story. And I mean, it wasn't like a massive reveal to her being in this or anything. The Doctor was surprised, but didn't seem massively surprised. I don't know, she just she was good. She was definitely good. I just don't think she was really needed. But if it's just kind of an introduction to then see her later on with Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor, then I'm all for that. That's all good. People are becoming super paranoid about everything unless they wear a Z-Dex. So a Z-Dex is this kind of like almost arm bracelet thing that UNIT are all wearing that basically, yeah, stops this weirdness that's going on in their brains to make them all paranoid and crazy. It stops that from happening if they've got this bracelet around and it's activated. So Kate ends up doing a little demonstration. She takes it off. She becomes super paranoid. I loved that scene. I thought that was so good. And the fact that it was her character, you know, it gave her something to do. And it was very well acted. Really liked that scene. So that was cool. And yeah, so basically everybody's going crazy. But then, you know, the Doctor or Donna's, someone's like, well, why don't you just put all these bracelets on everyone? So then they'll stop being crazy. And then she's like, you know, everybody, they're paranoid about everything. You think us going and putting a bracelet on them is going to make them, you know, you think they're going to be happy about that? And sure enough, she shows like a video of people being like, they're trying to control us with these bracelets. I liked that commentary of like, you know, people being super paranoid, thinking that they're being taken over by the government or whatever it is. It was a very interesting, different, and yeah, really fairly good little plot line we had going there. The dolls are so creepy. So this is when the Doctor and Donna finally meet the toy maker and they go into his shop and then they get stuck in that whole like maze corridor thing. I'm going to be honest, and I actually watched all three of these when I watched them the second time. I watched them with my partner. My partner never watches Doctor Who. She wasn't really watching. She was kind of in the background reading, but would look every now and again. She was mainly excited about Ncuti Gatwa being in it, to be honest, because she watches Sex Education. But, you know, with that whole corridor thing, because I did them all in one sitting. We just watched Wild Blue Yonder. And when, you know, the Doctor and Donna get stuck behind the door, she's like, oh, well, this is just the same thing that happened in Wild Blue Yonder. And then I thought about it and I was like, yeah, it pretty much is, isn't it? They're pretty much doing the same thing again here. So it felt, watching them back to back, it did feel a bit like, oh, we've kind of just done this. But no, the dolls though, when they, you know, the Doctor finds the doll with, is it Charles? And, you know, it's his head and it's the wooden doll. And then, you know, you see the toy maker controlling him like a puppet. And then the Doctor's face ends up on him and he's like, I thought I was so clever. And that was a really funny, silly moment. I quite like that. And then the dolls that Donna finds, you know, the creepy, the babbies, the something babbies? I can't remember what they called it now. Something babbies, I don't remember. But, and then, yeah, Stooky Sue was the you know, the little girl or woman or whatever she was, and then all the little babbies. That was terrifying. I could literally have nightmares about that. The Toymaker's story about the Doctor's companions after Donna. So I loved that whole thing where, you know, he sits the Doctor and Donna down in this kind of just nothingness because the Toymaker's, you know, messing around with everything around them. They're just kind of in a nothingness void, and he has this little kind of, you know, stage, and he does this little puppet show, and he's like, oh, this, you know, he met someone called Amy, and then she died, and the Doctor's like, well, she just died of old age, and he's like, well, that's all right then. And then he goes to Clara, and she died as well, and the Doctor explains that, and that's all right then, and then goes to Bill, and, you know, she died, and keeps going through these, and then he mentions Flux, and so that gets a big mention, and all these planets and everything that happened there. Interesting that they didn't mention it. I mean, I guess, yeah, they didn't mention, you know, Yaz, Dan, Graham, or Ryan, but I guess none of them died, although they could have mentioned, what her name? Graham's wife. Totally forgotten her name. They could have mentioned her, but they didn't. But I really liked that whole scene. It was just funny. It was also like, oh, sad, you know, everything that happened. The Doctor trying to defend himself. Really good stuff. There were some amazing scenes in this story. The Toymaker, what is this? Turning bullets into balloons while dancing to the Spice Girls. Now, I wasn't 100% sure how to feel about this. I mean, it gave me the Rasputin vibes, of course, from the Master in Power of the Doctor. So remember that was only 4 episodes ago. Or 3 episodes ago, I guess. So it gave me that sort of vibe. It also gave me, you know, like Voodoo Child from, you know, John Sim master back in The Sound of Drums gave me that sort of vibe. And I wasn't sure at first, but I actually quite like it now. The song, I don't know, the song, I mean, that's an old song, right? The Spice Girls aren't still making music. That is an old song. So it almost, I don't know, it doesn't really date it because it's already dated, right? I should have looked up when that song came out, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't recently. But I liked the whole thing. It made sense for the Toymaker, you know. I love the scene of him, you know, when people shoot, it's just like balloons or like petals coming out, and then he touches those two unit soldiers and they turn into balloons. Shirley picks up a balloon, it's a guy screaming, and it was a really good scene. You could tell Neil Patrick Harris was having an absolute ball, and yeah, it was silly, but I kind of expect those moments every now and again, and I think this was actually one of the better ones. The Rasputin one was a bit, I don't know how I feel about that. The Voodoo Child one I just like because it's from my era and I just like that and I like the song. And then this one, yeah, it just feels like it makes sense with this character and, you know, with all the context. The 15th Doctor splits out from the 14th. So this is where we get to Bi-Generation. The big thing to talk about in this episode, what do I think of Bi-Generation? It's tough. It's something that has never been mentioned before, and now it's a thing. I haven't watched like Doctor Who Unleashed or anything, but from what I've seen other people say, they've said that Russell basically has said that, oh, well, all the Doctors bi-regenerated. Okay, did they? We've seen the Doctors regenerate. They didn't bi-generate, not in the way that these did. So, what are you trying to get out there, Russell? I'm not really sure. And just generally, what do I think of the Bi-Generation? I'm not the biggest fan. I'm not. I think it overshadowed Ncuti's first scenes as the Doctor, having David there as well. I just generally, like, is this going to be a thing from now on? Or at least with Russell's run, is this going to be a thing where the Doctor bi-generates? I'm not a big fan. It's going to get old if that does become a thing. And even just as a one-off thing, I can kind of understand why they did it for this Doctor, but I just really don't. It's kind of like the Timeless Children. On one hand, Timeless Children, I don't like the concept. I don't really want to think about it. I don't like it. But at the same time, I'm like, you know what? Let's just go along with it. It's what is happening here. Maybe we'll just forget about it. And that's kind of what's happened in a lot of ways. There was still, there's still been mentions of, where is the Doctor from? And it would be nice to elaborate on it a bit, but at the same time, I would be happy for it to just kind of be forgotten about. But it doesn't annoy me as much as I thought it would, the Timeless Children thing. Then this is kind of like, I just don't know. I don't know how I feel. Even after 2 viewings, I still don't really know how I feel about it, to be honest. I don't think I'm a big fan. I will also mention the game, of course, that they play. So the reason why... that's the other thing, actually. The way that the 14th Doctor died felt a bit crap. He just kind of got shot by a laser. So, yeah. I mean, if that was a proper regeneration, I'd probably actually be more annoyed about it. The fact that it is a biogeneration, so the 14th Doctor is still around technically, that maybe dampens the fact that it was such a kind of shit way to go. But yeah, there is that. The ball game. Yeah, didn't love the ball game. I liked, because the whole thing was that the first Doctor and the Toymaker played a game. The Doctor won. The 14th Doctor, I almost said the 10th, the 14th Doctor and the Toymaker played the card game. The Toymaker won. So then they went to best of 3. So the Toymaker, I liked the whole thing of, I played my first game with your first Doctor, the second game with the 14th Doctor. I want to play the third game, or by your rules and this logic, I need to play my third game with the next Doctor. I liked that as a concept. Of course, then there's 2 Doctors for him to play the game with, and they end up playing catch, which, let's be honest, it's pretty underwhelming. It's literally just 3 men throwing around a ball until one of them doesn't catch it. A pretty poor way to yeah, finish this character off, basically, because, yeah, he literally just didn't catch a ball, and that meant he lost, and the Doctor's prize was to, like, basically banish him so he could never return. I just think bit of an underwhelming end, considering all the build-up and how big this character was and how powerful this character was, for it to end so easily and so mundanely. Quite disappointing. Of course, when the Toymaker died, the gold tooth that the Toymaker dropped, the gold tooth dropped. And now, earlier on, I think it was when they were playing the second game, the card game, he mentioned, something about, there was this person that I defeated, and I put him in this gold tooth. And then he drops the gold tooth, and there's a lot of laughing, and I've heard a lot of people saying that the laughing sounds like a mixture between John Sim, Michelle Gomez, and Sacha Dhawan, I think. And they think it's the Master, and that kind of backs up, when it gets dropped and a hand picks it up, and it's very reminiscent of when the Master died and the ring got taken. His ring got taken by the hand. So I'm almost certain that's the Master. Surely. I mean, surely, right? Doesn't make sense if it's not. So I expect the Master to come back at some point. So I like that as a little nod there as well. I'm interested in the whole thing because he was like, there was one person that I just could not face. I just ran away. So surely that's going to come up at some point. Who was that? Some people are saying, oh, maybe that's the Master, but I don't think so. I think the gold tooth's the Master. Is that a bit too obvious, though? I don't know. It could really be anything, couldn't it? Some people have been saying that it was Jinx Monsoon, who's coming, I think, next season. Her character was the one that picked up the tooth. That's possible. Yeah, could really be anything. Final point I've got is the 14th Doctor stays travelling to stay on Earth with Donna's family. Now, as much as I love David Tennant, and I love that, the 10th Doctor, and I love this 14th Doctor, and it is a happy ending for this Doctor, I can't help but feel like this has already been done, technically, with this Doctor. I'm thinking Rose. The Meta-Crisis Doctor stayed with Rose on the parallel universe he was going to grow old with her. That was different. This Doctor, I don't think is going to grow old. Don't really get that, can this Doctor still regenerate? I'm guessing not, but how does that work? I don't really know. But, yeah, I just feel like we've done this. It's already been done with this Doctor, basically. So I was a bit iffy about that. We've technically got like 3 David Tennants running around now, if you also count the 10th Doctor. So yeah, I'm not 100%. As much as I'm happy with the happy ending and everything, and happy for Donna, I'm not 100% keen on it. And yeah, then there's the whole thing of, there's now 2 TARDISes. And this is a thing that I saw other people mentioning that I also thought about. The 15th Doctor whacks the TARDIS with, the Toymaker's hammer or whatever it was, and makes another TARDIS because that's their prize. Okay, you've already got your prize. Your prize was to banish the Toymaker, but now you've got another prize, so I don't 100% understand that. But then there's the fact of the 15th Doctor, the Doctor that is going to be carrying on his adventures, is the one that's got the duplicate TARDIS. He's not got the original TARDIS. That kind of annoys me. I'm not a big fan of that. The current Doctor that is travelling around should have the proper TARDIS. Whereas, yeah, I guess it's like a clone, so it's basically the same TARDIS, but there's this part of me which is like, well, he doesn't have the proper TARDIS. The 14th Doctor has the proper TARDIS. And it's just a bit like, I don't know how I feel about this. So, we've gone on for quite a long time there. This is probably going to be, 20 minutes we're at about now, although it'll be less than that once I cut it up a bit, but this is going to be a long one, but it's kind of to be expected, a lot to talk about here, and I have tried going through it as quickly as I can, but all in all, what was my thoughts on the Giggle? On the whole, I liked it. The first 45 minutes or whatever before the regeneration, or the bi-generation, I loved it. Probably my favourite of the 3 specials. But after that, yeah, it's a bit wishy-washy. But all in all, I did enjoy it. So thank you guys very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.